Welcome back, everybody, to Irae Amantes Amentes. Kasumi was filling my ears with that nonsense during our way back to the apartment, and wouldn't stop even after we had arrived.
I
don't know about this guy. Kasumi envying others, and even calling someone a father? You didn't hear that every day. She had lost her own father. As for me, I didn't have parents, so we kind of had this unspoken agreement not to really bring the topic up. I found myself at a loss for words.
I
felt a bit odd seeing Kasumi smile as if she was talking about herself. Or maybe I was the jerk for being this perplexed by it. Despite having no blood relation whatsoever, Himuro, Sister Lisa, and Father Trifa seemed like a genuine family. Which was a wonderful thing, all things considered. No wonder Kasumi admired them. Yeah, I was the weird one here. After reassuring her that I was just fine, I began to change my mind. This definitely didn't come up all that often, but if Kasumi wanted to discuss the topic, there really was no reason for me to object. After all, just like I told Father Trifa, I didn't feel a thing for my parents. What? I don't want to know. Yeah. I had no parents. No relatives, either. I was taken in by a friend of my dad, Kasumi's father, and so I've been freeloading off the Ase family ever since. In that sense, Kasumi and I were more like brother and sister than childhood friends. She insisted it was the other way around, but after some serious consideration, I concluded I didn't need an older sister like that. Besides, my birthday came before hers. As for financial troubles, I'd been told that I had nothing to worry about thanks to my family's inheritance. With the exception of the minimum amount for living expenses, I could more or less use it as I saw fit. You know, I was really grateful to her family. Kasumi included, of course. They wanted us to get married. Smiling, Kasumi drew her face closer to mine. Contrary to what I was expecting her to say, though. Oh, I called it. I called it. Boom! There goes the dynamite. She dropped that bomb so hard I can almost literally hear it. Wait. God, that'd be so weird though, right? I mean, yeah, you're adopted, they're not completely blood related, but man, it'd still be weird, right? It's like dating a stepsister or something. Yeah, why the hell did I look that up? Was I actually considering it at some point? That face. Ugh. What was with that ungodly, wicked smile? Not a word. I don't know how common knowledge that is, but alright. Everyone knows that. Yeah, keep digging that hole, buddy. I read lots of manga. Kasumi began to sidle up to me like a slug. It was more off-putting than scary, honestly.
私たち実は言い名付けだったのよ。
No. No, we're not.
ね
Come on, Ren, say it.
えねえね
I gave her a karate chop on instinct. I gotta stop doing that.
え。言ったよねあた。いきなり何してくれんのよ。
不気味な動きで近寄ってこないでくれ、知女。
Achievement.
知女
Oh, man. The words. Using them $5 words there. A woman who sexually harasses a man.
地上地上地上の愛と平和を守るため。
お前頭大丈夫か？
We're just now asking this question we should already know the answer to.
ああ、うさい。おでこ触るな。熱なんかない。っていうかあれでしょ。あんた照れてるからいつもそんなことばっか言うんでしょ。ガキ。
ロボトミー手術を受けてくれ、バカスミ。
Twitsumi. Huh.
ちょっとそれ子供の時に禁句してしたあだ名じゃない。この練炭。
Ren pen. What do they even mean? It's not as funny. Or insulting.
練炭。
萌えキャラみたいに呼ぶな。
練炭はどうしてそんなに素直じゃないかな。
君はどうしてそんなにおまぬけなんだ？
Oh.
なに？
Ah, friends. Gotta love them. Our stupid exchange. Well, sorry, one stupid exchange after another. Pointless conversation after pointless conversation. A worthless daily existence. Cheap like garbage. A series of ever unchanging mundane events. The kind you'd have a hard time even remembering the next day. Why did I never reflect upon that day? That instant. More deeply? I was careless. I didn't take it seriously. You know, I thought that I understood. That nothing lasted forever. That something being finite meant that its end could come at any time. That irreplaceably precious garbage of a daily life Ren Fuji wished to protect to the point of parting ways with his best friend came to an end that night. Now then, let the curtain rise on tonight's grand guignol. Oh, look at that moon. That's a huge moon. You'd be freaking out if you saw that moon in the sky. At first, I couldn't understand what was going on.
Huh?
What happened to me? I was just in my room a few moments ago. So why was I suddenly all alone in a place like this? I glanced around my surroundings, the chaos in my mind never once subsiding. I was outside, no question about that. Was this some kind of a prank? I didn't get so drunk that my memories blanked out, did I? It couldn't have been the case.
どういうことだ?
How did this happen? I don't know. It wasn't that difficult to recall everything that had happened up until this point. I left the church, went home, took a bath, and went to bed. I might have had a chat with Kasumi too, but it probably wasn't anything important, knowing her. Oh, nothing that would help me here at any rate. And the last thing I remember was going to bed. That was the most important bit. It meant that this was all a dream, not reality. A dream? But even if I assumed that was true, there was still something I couldn't quite explain. Why wasn't this that dream? You know the one. Over the past few days I've been having the exact same dream of that twilight shore. That nightmare at the guillotine. True, if I never had that dream ever again, I could count myself lucky. But the sudden change still left me feeling like something was off. That moon loomed high above, showering me with the frozen blue light. I was alone, like a dancer in the spotlight. This was strange. This was strange. Something felt off. Though I was conscious, I couldn't perceive anything. It was a vague, floating feeling, like I was nothing more than an eyeball. That could be attributed to the nature of dreams, though. I couldn't control myself properly. Although I could detect a dull pain hammering away at my brain, I still felt out of it to the point of wanting to throw up. I would have been hard-pressed to call it a very comfortable feeling. In other words, this really was yet another dream. The details of it might have changed, but it remained just as unpleasant as before. I began to stagger as I felt a sense of intoxication wash over me. Actually, perhaps it would be better to say I was already walking. I certainly wasn't doing it consciously, and the sensation of my feet pressing against the earth felt incredibly vague. All I had left was my vision and this faint, dull headache, and just a heartbeat. It sounded like it was coming from far off, but I could definitely hear someone's heartbeat. It wasn't mine. For some reason, that was all I knew, as well as the fact that it was slowly, yet steadily growing closer. A sharp burning pain flared up in my neck. The word pain didn't even begin to describe it. It felt like I was being strangled by a string of molten hot barbed wire. And as the pain grew more intense, so did the heartbeat, drew closer and closer. A never-ceasing sound, the sensation of another heartbeat in the back of my head. What the hell was this? I was getting strangled. I couldn't breathe. The pain was only growing more and more intense. Succumbing to strangulation was all too easy. I could feel that thing biting into the flesh of my neck. It was trying to twist my neck. It was all too incomprehensible. What did I do to deserve this? Could it be that I was about to become the 8th victim? The abrupt pain, akin to having my very bones scraped off, made me let out a violent howl of agony. I wasn't bleeding, but I could tell that my neck and torso were held together by nothing but one last bone. Creak, creak. I heard my bones being whittled down little by little. The other heartbeat in my skull, I could feel it being activated. I found myself assailed by a feeling of discomfort, unlike any I'd ever experienced before. Almost like I was a second skin being shed by another creature while I still lived. What? An ever so brief whisper echoed into my ears. I couldn't make out what it was saying, not a word. I'd already passed my threshold of pain and was being driven into a situation where all I wanted to do was writhe on the ground. I was in no condition to properly make out some ever audible noise of a voice. As the creaking in my neck grew more intense, my vision was abruptly cut off with the grace of a sudden blackout. A sound echoed across the darkness I found myself freshly enveloped by. Hurry. 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 The sound drilling into my skull began to merge with the noise, gradually transforming into something I could make out as human speech. A familiar requiem I'd heard once before. Disare, dis illa solven celcum in favilla, teste David cum Sibylla. Quantus tremor est futures, quando judex est ventures, cuncta stricte discussurus. Tuba mirum spragen sonum, per sepulchra regionum, coget omnes ante thronum. Mors stubept et natura, cum resurgent creatura, judicanti responsora. Liber scriptis profectur, in quo totum, contintur, unde mundus judister. Judex ergo cum sebdip, quid latet abrepit, nil inultum remembet. Quid sum miser tunc didictus, quem patronum rogators, cum vix justus sit secus. Rex tremende majestis, qui salvandos salvas gratis, salva mi fons pietatis. Recordere Jesu P, quod sum cuse tu vie, ne mi perdes illede. Quarens mi sediste lassus, redemistri crucem passus, tantas labor nos sit cassus, justus judex ultonus, donum fac remonis si sante diem rationis. Ingemisco tanquam reus, culpa rube vultures meus, supplicante parce Deus. Qui Mariam absolvisti et latrinum exhausti meam quoque spem dediste. Preces me non sunt dignae, sed tu bonus fac benigne, ni pernini. Cremar igne inter ovis locum presta, et ab hodes me sequestra statunas in parte dextra. Confutatus maledictis, flammis acribis addictus, vocamicum benedix. Oro supplex et acclinis cor contritum, quasi sinus gere cirum me finis. My skull was split, my head severed. The string of unintelligible words that poured forth from within jolted through my mind, robbing it of sanity. To oppose the raging stream of pain, I let go of the hand known as the axis of reason desperately clinging to me. And thus, my head was severed. The world had turned inside out. There was no pain, no nausea. That feeling of intoxication began to fade, as all my senses, sight and hearing included, were completely restored. What the hell? As everything from the neck up had been replaced, it would only be natural for the previous head's discomfort to vanish as well. A myriad sensations all strained, sharpened to the limit, and although there was a distinct sense of aloofness and ambiguity in its operation, the head had had the body under control. Its movements remained stiff, a sway of the ego perhaps, yet Ren Fuji's influence was already but an insignificant speck of dust, hardly even worth viewing as a problem. It would soon grow accustomed to it. It knew him better than anyone, guaranteeing utmost affinity. The two of them were as caudicus, 2 in 1, two sides of the same coin, yin and yang. Ah, how truly romantic. What would man call this, if not the red string of fate itself? The head began to cackle, its body staggering onwards with the unsteady step of a sleepwalker. Where to? That hardly needed to be said. To its prey. The hunter cared not who ended up slaughtered. It could have even been a cat or dog for all it cared. So long as the prey had blood, life, and was worthy to be cut down, the hunter did not discriminate. All it needed was a victim large enough to be fit for a massacre to help satisfy these welling destructive urges. Had there been a zoo nearby, an elephant or a giraffe would have likely sufficed. However, that was not the case. As such, it needed to hunt for something else. Something that hardly needed to be explained. Indeed, humans. A voice came pouring out.
よければ公園の外までご一緒させてもらえませんか? 怖くて.
Startled, a woman in her mid-20s turned around. Her gaudy makeup and suit left quite the impression, pointing toward a career in perhaps the nighttime entertainment business. The head continued to speak.
友達とはぐれちゃって電話したら
入り口で待ってるから早く来いって言われました。薄情な奴らですよね。
It produced a smile, all to calm itself, to coax, to persuade its preferred target.
ダメですか?
In times like this, presenting a soft, kind, and gentle expression worked as the most effective cover. The woman made a troubled smile, but ultimately agreed to the head's request. Despite voicing a grumble or two, her voice rang with a hint of relief. She was probably frightened. Ah, what an idiot. Just as the head formulated that thought, not even the assailant themselves could tell or remember which direction it came from. All they saw was the lightning-fast swoop of the blade. Its afterimage burned into their eyes. The woman was decapitated, her head sent flying into the air. It didn't end there. Her torso was sliced into 5 pieces before the head even hit the ground. My god. She displayed not a shred of resistance. The axe seemed a magic trick of sorts, but one that could never be undone. The woman's body split into pieces, her various parts scattering like falling Jenga blocks. The freshly severed head fell on the still spinning hand with a thump, the same somewhat stiff smile eternally frozen on its lips. It then bounced into the air one more time, before being sliced in two right down the middle. The woman's face split open, scattering blood and brains as it burst like cheap fireworks. A fierce cackle reverberated in the area, piercing the very heavens. Its spine creaked, perhaps due to joy, dread, or a mix of both. The creeping sensation of myriad crawling worms shook its jaw, never once stopping. The hunter's fit of laughter failed to cease, a multitude of thoughts diffusing throughout its head. A feeling akin to the taste of cheap drugs, a gut-wrenching wave of chaotic, psychedelic tension, wonderful beyond description. It felt so good, everything from the head up switched on its own. Whoosh. 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 The world flashed like a strobe light at the very neck-breakingly fast switch. To get a clear idea of what that felt like, one had simply to take a roller coaster, a free fall, and whatever they call that spinning coffee cup ride thing, and put them all together. The thrill of murder, the joy of robbing one of life. The intoxication of absolute carnage seeping into the very core of the hunter's being. The lamps and garbage cans within 10 meters had split apart, much like the woman. Met with its own sheer over-enthusiasm, the hunter laughed. As such, it wanted. It yearned to play a while longer. Alas, you mustn't. It would appear they have caught wind of this. The world shut down with a click. Not unlike death. Like that woman from a moment before, whose very existence was denied and expunged. Like that dream of being beheaded by a guillotine. That exact same sensation. Ah, so this was yet another dream. Sleep. Do not awaken. You must not. What? Wake up. Now then, the beasts approach. Retreat or advance. Make your choice. And so, after God knows how much time, I finally came to my senses, only to find myself gazing up at the moon. The round, perfectly circular shape of the moon, like a hole bored into the sky. The cold night air sent a shiver down my spine, feeling almost like it came pouring out from that very hole. Where was I? And what was I doing here all by myself? I didn't really know, nor did I remember anything for that matter. All I recalled was falling on my ass and spacing out like some idiot. Right. I had a dream. I couldn't recall all the details, but I knew it was quite the unpleasant, ominous, and terrifying, or perhaps enjoyable dream. At least that's what it felt like. Why had I been staring at the moon this whole time without budging my eyes or my body? How odd of me to fixate on that. It wasn't like I really wanted to look at the moon, but it seemed to attract me precisely because I didn't want to see that. The moon was simply a convenient distraction. Almost as if I was unconsciously clinging to it, trying to escape my surroundings. Why was something like that here? I didn't want to think about why this wet, sticky liquid on the ground was there. I finally looked down. My gaze fell upon a sea of blood, as well as chunks of meat and excrement that seemed like they were chucked out of a bucket. Remains of a human body lay scattered as far as the eye could see, mutilated beyond recognition. Arms severed at the elbow, legs still standing up from the shins down, a torso cut into round slices with his intestines spilling out like spaghetti, and just as I feared, the body itself had nothing from the neck up. A woman's head, cleaved vertically, floated in the middle of that puddle of blood, facing the ground, eyes fixed on me in a glare. White bone, pink entrails, yellow fat, red muscles, gray brain, dull eyes, light brown hair, the putrid stench of blood and death lingering about those grisly remains, even emitting steam in the cold night air, violated my nasal cavities with merciless intensity. What was all this doing here? I felt like a complete fucking idiot for only thinking about this just now. I could remember, although only partially, what this body used to look like. The kind of face it made. As well as how she was killed. I vomited with enough force to make me feel like my innards were being turned inside out. The smell of vomit mixed in with the stench of blood, my stomach cramped under the wintry moonlight, no doubt a result of the blood that looked nearly like a veil of crimson mist. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a dream. This wasn't a dream. This cold, this head, the stench, these images, they were all... I felt completely shocked. More by the action I took rather than by the abrupt voice that prompted me to do it. Just how many meters did I jump back despite being on all fours? Wilhelm. This guy's new. Well, he's not new, but... a man I'd never seen before greeted me with a jovial smile. If he was standing where I'd been until a moment ago, it meant that I must have jumped back about 10 meters. The man spoke up in a calm voice, paying no heed to mutilated corpse by his feet. He clearly harbored not a shred of respect for the dead, casually trampling on the woman's sliced face like it was no more than an empty can. Seeing that, a difficult-to-describe chill rushed throughout my entire body. The beast's approach. Didn't someone say that moments before I regained consciousness? This was bad, really bad. Nerve cells all throughout my body began to sound their equivalent of an emergency siren, blowing clean away all the trivial bafflements that came with seeing a dead body, killing someone, or wondering what I was even doing here in the first place. Before me towered a colossal threat. It would have been simple to identify it as a beast of prey. No. A better way to describe it would be an otherworldly kind of pressure. The dread of some mysterious, inhuman abomination. Such an abruptly materialized source of pure wickedness evicted all potential thoughts from my mind. This guy was not normal. He was not human.
Yo, なんか言えよガキ。こっちは気使って猿用の言葉で話してやってるんだぜ。口聞けねえってわけでもねえだろうが。
The man took a step toward me. The emergency alarm in my mind proceeded to kick it up a notch. It was a hunch similar to base instinct. It was telling me to run, otherwise I would be devoured. My body moved unconsciously. I jumped back just as far as I did earlier. No, even faster than that, with the intention of getting out of here right away. However... Ah! It's you. That attempt was blocked by a woman standing behind me. This was getting ridiculous. I poured all I had into fleeing this vicious sink or swim situation. Even if there were any obstacles, I had enough force to mow down pretty much anything in my path. So why? Why couldn't I break through this fragile-looking woman? How the hell was she holding me down with her arms that should have honestly broken like frail twigs the moment I hit her? All she did was place her hand lightly upon my chest, yet that alone rendered me completely paralyzed. I felt an unbelievably heavy pressure, almost like there were over 100 people packed beneath her skin. Okay, I looked this up. Nagzera means is like a German vampire, essentially. Nagzera is from the word Nak, which means after, and Zera, which means living off, or living after, so like living after death, so basically, you know, a vampire of some sort. Smirking, the pale man shifted his gaze to look at me, his scoff ridiculing my pointless attempt at trying to escape him. A hopelessly terrifying sense of sheer inhumanity. Abnormality to the point of being laughable. These two were just like that. They killed people without any display of humanity, devouring others to escalate themselves to a position transcending mankind.
Zarathustra, だったか? メルクリウスの代わりにしちゃえらく役者不足に見えるわよ。どうするマレウス？遊んでみるか？
そうね。鉄は熱いうちに、なんだっけ、この国のことわざだったような気がするけど。
Strike while the iron's hot. My thoughts were reduced to a jumble just by having them near me. I felt like I could pass out at any second. I could smell an unnaturally dense mixture of blood, death, and decay. I was this close to losing it. Simply being in the center of their attention was going to crush me if this kept going. Anyway, I had to do something. Even if my body was paralyzed, I needed to at least speak up so I could free myself from their grip. These cutesy people that are evil. Ugh.
普通の人間なら気絶するくらいのことはしてるつもりなんだけどな。意識があるだけじゃなくて口も聞けるか。これはいよいよたまんないね。私。
Leaving my chest, the woman's fingers slid up to my neck.
あれ、あなたがやったのかな?
She referred to the mutilated corpse of the woman lying scattered on the pavement, asking me if I was responsible.
雑で荒いし綺麗じゃないよね。少なくとも私の知ってるあいつの趣味じゃないようだけど。メルクリウスの生物が何だったのか、私たちの誰一人として知らないのよ。だからあれだけじゃ特定できない。
Curious.
あなた、あいつの代理なの？
もしそうなら、野郎の生物もこれと似たようなもんなのか?
What the hell were these guys talking about? It all sounded like gibberish to me. Besides,
知らない。俺は。
Did I really kill someone here? There was a body right in front of me. I retained memories of the moment of her death. But was that really me? I was neither trying to flee from reality nor attempting to shift the blame. Rather, I just... I saw it. I did. But I couldn't say for certain I was the one who did it. When I gave that answer... Maniacal laughter poured out of the two like water from a broken faucet, their sneers like a lump of malice. An aggregation of discord that threatened to drive one mad, to destroy one's sanity just by listening. Its sheer wretchedness made me sick. Theirs was no laugh of any ordinary human. That much I could attest to with certainty.
そうかそうか、お前違うか。そうだよな。あ、そうだろうとも。面白い。
The man walked right up to me, his shoulders still trembling from laughter. His eyes betrayed no sense of laughter, though. I got goosebumps all over.
めんどくせえな。体に効くかよ。
His simple kick to the stomach sent me flying like a piece of cardboard. What the hell? That seemingly light kick nearly killed me. I must have broken half my ribs. He stomped on my left shoulder right as I attempted to sit up, causing my joints to break with a creaking sound. Okay, on Nenerbe? Sorry. On Nenerbe was a project during Nazi Germany which basically tried to research the archaeological and cultural history of the Aryan race. So basically he's asking you how, you know, like, what's your background, how are you connected? That's crazy. My vision flickered from the pain. I couldn't even scream. By contrast, the man's voice remained endlessly frivolous. Oh my god, these guys are doing a number on Ren. It broke. Raz was dislocated. I couldn't move my left arm from the shoulder down. I grabbed the man's ankle with my right hand out of pure reflex. I attempted pouring as much strength into my grip as possible, but he wasn't budging even an inch. Seriously? The man lifted me up in the air using only his leg, then connected it to a spin kick without missing a beat. It was enough to send me flying 7 or 8 meters to the fence overlooking the water. This was no laughing matter. He was seriously going to kill me if this kept up. I had to do something to get away.
Is
that priest guy gonna show up and like save the day? I mean, not save the day obviously, but make them stop killing me? His tone mocked me, like he had just read my mind. He was right though. This wouldn't do me any good. Then what else was I to? The man's kick crashed into the iron fence beside me, bending its bars in the process. I remained silent, but what else was I going to do? How was I supposed to reply when I had no answer to give him? Was I going to die here, crushed without rhyme or reason in a situation beyond my comprehension? I didn't want that. No way was I going to accept an outcome like that. I felt it meaningless to explain and justify myself to an opponent I couldn't reason with. Likewise, I couldn't just run away from him either. Then what was I to do? Words and running wouldn't do me any good. So what other methods would help me break through the deadlock of this irrational, unreasonable situation? Well... A color of boredom seeped into the man's tone as he threw a fierce punch my way. Almost as if to say that he was done playing torture. His bloodlust was near palpable. I felt death itself approaching. I could instinctively tell that I would die the moment that fist crashed into me. I no longer had any other choice. I saw a body earlier. Maybe I was the one who killed her, maybe I wasn't. Regardless of the truth, that horrific image had been permanently burned into my retina, refusing to leave. As such, I had but one thing on my mind, that I did not wish to end up that way. A selfish, greedy, and wretched attachment to life. That alone steeled my conviction, made it fiercer than anything else. Like hell I'd be killed. Like hell I'd be broken here. I had to move, dodge, struggle. If I want to live, if I wish to avoid death, I had but one thing to do. Because I was not supposed to die in a place like this, to begin with. Found it in yourself to act. In that case, allow me to give you some advice. Out of all the current fangs, that man, Bay, is amongst the fiercest. Struggle all you wish, but mortal skill alone shan't defeat him.
Ooh.
The man's arm pierced a bench, the iron fence, and even part of the pavement, drawing it back. He flashed a smile. After rolling away from him to gain some distance, I rose back onto my feet. How shall you proceed, Zarathustra? Shall you acquire my Ewigite, Ewigite, and test its prowess on him? Ewigite actually means eternity? So shall you acquire my eternity? That doesn't really make any sense, I guess, but maybe it will in the future. Should you retreat or advance? I implore you to bless me with the light of the unforeseen. I felt my head pounding, making me think I was ready to faint at any moment. My semicircular canals rang from the shock like an explosion that happened right next to me, knocking off my sense of balance. But the force of that punch, as well as the ones before it, were no laughing matter, yet they weren't fast enough to make dodging them completely impossible. So long as I kept myself from freezing in terror, I could manage. Now that things had come to this, that was all I could do. The ivory man of white hair faced me again with a smirk decorating his lips. He would likely kill me in an instant if I tried to make a run for it, which meant that my best chance here was to try and create an opening. I was hurting all over, but this still paled in comparison to my fight with Shiru. It was hardly impossible. I had to fight. Successfully break through. It was the only way. Very well, then act according to your heart's desire. Should you deem it necessary to determine the difference between your strengths.
なあマレウス、こいつ殺すぞ。文句はねえな。
ダメって言っても聞かないんでしょ。いいわよ別に。あなた昔からそんなだしね。たださっきも言ったけど。
頭は残せか。まあ前処してみら。
The man approached me with a faint smirk. If he really planned to pick a fight, then victory would go to the one who struck first.
ちょっと 待ちなさいよ。どうせやるならもう少しやる気が出るようにしてあげるわ。例えばあなたさ。
The woman interrupted before I could make my first move, and her words caused my thoughts of taking the initiative to fly right out the window.
今夜ついさっきまで教会にいたんだよね。
Oh no. What?
だよ、そうだっけか？
そうよ。だったら手っ取り早いじゃない。
Wait, what were they saying?
逃げるとかごまかそうとか、そういう気が起きないようにしてあげるから、もっと死に物狂いで頑張ろうよ。あなた自分が痛いのには鈍そうな感じだし、こういう状況の方が火つくんじゃない？
ああ、なるほど。
In my mind, I begged them to stop smiling like that. The way they smiled, even an idiot could figure out their true intentions. I couldn't help but feel bothered by the way she mentioned my presence at the church. Almost like she'd heard about it from someone, as opposed to directly seeing it herself. But those worries soon became meaningless. I turned pale in an instant. Fear and uneasiness simultaneously sent shivers down my spine. I went there with Kasumi. I went to see Himuro. I talked to them. It was fun. A good memory. I could still recall quite well. So, how dared those otherworldly fucks talk about it like it happened on the same planet?
もし逃げたら。
That smirking woman's voice was grating to the ears. I had to silence it, no matter what it took. I couldn't allow her to say the rest.
あなたの友達皆殺しにしちゃうからね。
The moment she said that, I rushed forward before I could even think. My sense of balance still felt off, to the point where I didn't think I could run straight. Despite that, I launched the equivalent of a suicide attack. I was scared beyond words. The thought of what they'd do if I let them go was nigh unbearable. So I dashed toward them, emptying my mind. I let out no roar, no shout, not even a weep. All I did was charge mechanically forward. That was...
まあ待てよ。どうしたおい、急に勇ましくなったじゃねえか。つっても女相手に切れる男ってのはいただけねえな。度量が知れるぜ。
My suicide charge had been halted with little to no effort. He grabbed me by my neck, preventing me from moving forward. I could tell that he needed to squeeze, but a little harder to snap it. But I couldn't back down. A chill somewhat different from what I'd been experienced earlier rushed up my spine. I gritted my teeth, clenched my fists, my whole body was trembling. This was rage. Fear of the horrible things these psychos would do if I didn't stop them here.
逃げ打とうって気がなくなったんなら、追加で俺からも葉っぱくれてやろうじゃねえか。もう質疑応答は終了だ。こっから先は口以外で語り合おうぜ。
Power.
心配すんなよ、手加減してやる。武器は出さねえし、片手だけでやってやっから。お前は銃でもナイフでも念力でも呪いでも何でもいいから使ってみろや。お前が実際何者だろうと、要は遊べるかどうかだしよ。暇してたんだ、長いこと。待つってのはつれえよな。もうしけた祭りじゃ満足できねえ。だからよ、これ最後のチャンスだ。俺にここまで譲歩させてなえる落ち着きやがったらお前。
He drew me close to him, uttering the following like it was nothing.
この街地図から消しちまうぞ。
I felt dizziness taking its hold on me. My throat turned so raspy I had trouble properly breathing. I had no idea why all this was happening, or why these insane bastards were here. But there was one thing I did know. This guy was serious. If I made a single mistake in how I acted here, he'd likely make good on his word. And he could probably pull it off, too. He would thoroughly, undoubtedly, mercilessly, unsparingly, and heartlessly pulverize, reap, kill, and destroy every single thing here, laughing merrily all the while. The mundane everyday life I held so dear was being rapidly painted over by the unknown. I was sure of it, so I had to fight. I was not interested in anything that fell outside the boundaries of the known. I had to fight now. Therefore, I had nothing to hesitate over.